I see meeting is now streaming live on Facebook on my Zoom.
I don't see it.
Hi, let's see.
Let's see what's happening.
Yeah, guys, we're live on Facebook. This is awesome. Great. I'm so happy we made it work. So if you guys are able to hop on over to Facebook and see that, that would be great. If you could share it with your audiences, it would be awesome. So I would just like to take a minute to introduce myself. My name is, it looks like we're seeing everybody over there too. I wanted to try to just get speaker view, but my name is Laura with Forever Bridal. I'm the creative director, and I'm here today with Emily and Camelia. We've been making the best that we possibly can out of this situation of being at home, and we've spent enough time talking about how long we're going to be here and all the crazy things we're doing and living in our pajamas. So we thought it would be really great to just connect with our brides and talk about how we're still planning weddings and how we're still scheduling things out and looking forward to the time where we can all get back together. I know the venues have had the most challenging time to reschedule and postpone current weddings, and with those fall dates filling up really fast for the weddings that are being postponed and rescheduled right now, that is just going to make new weddings even more challenging to find dates. So for all you girls who are still planning weddings for the fall or even just for next year, you have got to get on that wedding planning. I know we're all sitting around at home, but now's the time to start planning and reaching out and researching the vendors that you'd like to have for your special day. So with that, we are going to be holding these spotlight Wednesday wedding spotlights every week. And this week we're talking to wedding venues. We have Martha and Audrey from the Rand Bryan House. We have Liza from Merrill Estates. We have Merrill Estate and Gardens, and we have Anissa, who is representing the Graham Mill, and she works with a few other venues as well. So we're just here to answer any kind of wedding planning questions that you have if you are planning a future wedding or postponing or rescheduling for this fall. So I'm going to make sure everybody is unmuted here so everybody can talk, or you might have to unmute yourself. So let's just introduce ourselves for each other. Martha, why don't you and Audrey introduce the Rand Bryan House for us?
Okay, hi everybody. This is a family-owned business, and that's why you see Martha and Audrey, as you might figure out if you didn't already know my daughter. So we're a venue that is really a combination of a farm and a historic home and some really pretty grounds. We're about 20 minutes from downtown Raleigh, in Garner, just outside of Garner. We offer a number of different options as far as the locale that you use. We're sitting on about 135 acres, so we have some farmland if people want that look. We have some manicured grounds. We have a historic home, so the weddings, both the ceremony and the reception, can be in any of those spots, just kind of depending on the couple's preference and depending on the size of the event and of course the weather and. So those kind of variables help folks decide, kind of which area they like the most. And we offer a lot of flexibility, not only with the locations, but also with choosing vendors. So we work with a lot of our great vendor teams in the Raleigh area that you'll be seeing over the next few weeks, I guess, when you look at caterers and drivers and that kind of thing. So,
awesome. What are some of the biggest questions or the most common questions that you get as a venue when a bride is coming to you and looking at your space for her wedding?
Usually the first couple of questions when they find out about us is cost, of course, is a factor, and then availability. Of course, that's, as you mentioned, that's going to be a big one now with all the rescheduling that we're doing. Also, a lot of couples ask about the flexibility with vendors, because a lot of couples are looking for that. They may have a caterer in mind or something, and it's important to them to have choices, and so they do ask about that.
Okay, great. All right, we're gonna move around.
Change Kevin's name to Rocky.
Okay. Let's see. Liza from Merrill Estate and Gardens, you want to introduce yourself and kind of tell us some things that you hear from brides when they're looking for venues?
Absolutely. My name is Liza Merrill, and we are located on the beautiful Crystal Coast. Merrill Estate and Gardens is in Indian Beach, North Carolina, in Carteret County. We're right in the middle of the island, in between Atlantic Beach and Emerald Isle, if you're familiar with those areas. We are a large estate that has about 15,000 square feet for our building, with also several thousand square feet of covered outdoor space, along with gardens and lawn space. So all of that is available to our brides. And we also have access to the beach and sound for various portions of the event. So those are all within walking distance there. And of course, everything can be accommodated there with ceremony, reception, and we also have suites for the bride and groom and their wedding party to get ready and utilize. And so also similar to what the ladies were saying a moment ago, we try to be really flexible and accommodating. We are also a restaurant family. We own 2 other restaurants with multiple locations. So we do all of our catering in-house, but we try to be as flexible as possible in terms of making packages that meet the needs of the bride and groom, because every wedding, as I'm sure everyone on here knows, is very unique and special, and they have different priorities. So we do try to be really accommodating with budget, timeframes, overall needs for the space. And we're fortunate that we have indoor and outdoor space, which allows for that flexibility. In terms of questions that we get, similar to what they were mentioning, a lot of people do have questions, of course, about availability, pricing. And then I think they do just have questions about, we have packages, but we always encourage folks to tell us what they want. So if they're not interested in a certain part of the package, let us know what's more important to them and try to be accommodating for what makes sense for them and for us. And then, of course, people always ask us, because we do have several folks come to the area that are doing more of a destination style wedding. If they're traveling, they're looking for recommendations on other vendors. So who have we worked with? Who can we recommend? And thankfully, we have a great amount of awesome wedding professionals in the area, and also people from outside of the area that we've worked with that we're able to send to them and that we get to work with on a regular basis.
So tell me a little bit about you said you have packages, and then you have, you can do customization if there's something that isn't there that a bride wants, or vice versa. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So we kind of do it in 3 tiers, and that's really just to give people sort of a baseline, I think, because I feel like obviously the wedding planning process for most brides and grooms, it's new to them. And so they can be overwhelmed by options. So we try to sort of narrow it down a little bit for them and say, hey, this is kind of what our basic package is, with some of the more simple options, if you will. So maybe they don't have a huge wedding, maybe they don't have a huge wedding party, and they don't have, need for a huge luxury suite that can have 20 bridesmaids in it to get ready. They might only have 2 people in their wedding party. So we try to kind of think through that. And then from there, we have a kind of a middle tier, and then what we consider the luxury package, which is kind of more all-inclusive and comprehensive and has a lot more, food and beverage options included, and just more space, more time, and usually more guests, not always, but sometimes. So that's sort of what we do to get them started. And then oftentimes people will mix and match within that. So they might like something that's within one of the other packages, but they might not need all of the options within the luxury package. So we kind of do ad hoc options for them in terms of what makes sense to them, what's important to them, and help them also stay within their budget, because of course that's important to them, and we can kind of help guide them in that aspect.
Perfect. Awesome. Great. Anissa, I'm going to give it over to you and let you talk a little bit about your business. I know you're a wedding planner as well, so you probably know all the top questions that a bride should be asking when she goes to meet with a venue. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you have going on?
Sure, thank you. So I have two venues I'm here representing today. One is a new venue that's opening up this month. It's called the Graham Mill. And the other is one that we've had for 2 years now. It's called Forest Hall at Chatham Mills. So both are old mill buildings, historic, that have been renovated and have a beautiful industrial feel to them. So the Graham Mill is located in Graham, North Carolina, which is about 30 minutes from Durham, Chapel Hill, and Greensboro. And Forest Hall is located in Pittsboro, North Carolina. So that's just about 20 minutes outside of Chapel Hill. Each are just under an hour from Raleigh. So at Graham, we can fit up to 240 seated. There is an outdoor space where you could have outdoor cocktail hour or ceremony. And the hall itself is nice and spacious, tons of room for a dance floor, market lights come included, really beautiful spot, and right in the downtown of Graham. So lots of photo opportunities too. And Forest Hall, the one in Pittsboro, can hold up to 250, but there are two sides to the venue. So if you wanted to utilize one for the ceremony and the other for the reception, then we recommend about 150 is our ideal guest count. And we also have outdoor space there that can also serve as the outdoor ceremony or cocktail hour. And both have a preferred vendors list, but it's very extensive with over 150 vendors on it. So lots of options for customization and for couples to really find vendors who are the perfect fit for them.
Yeah, we were talking about that last time that you were in our office, and I think that's really great that you give so many options for preferred vendors so that girls, don't feel pigeonholed into particular wedding vendors, but it really gives a wide variety and just really spreading the love through the community of all the wonderful wedding vendors that are out there. So that's really wonderful. What's kind of trending right now? Are you seeing a lot of outdoor ceremonies and then indoor receptions, or does it really just depend on the bride?
Yeah, more than anything, being in North Carolina, it just depends on the weather. It's so hard because no matter what the month, it could be December and it could be hot, or June and it could be cold. So it's really hard to tell. But one of the safest combinations that we see our couples do is an indoor ceremony, then outdoor cocktail hour, and then back in for reception. That allows the space to really be flipped and set up for the reception while guests go out for the cocktail hour. And a cocktail hour, if it's raining or if it's too hot or too cold, it's a bit easier to help guests feel comfortable when they're moving around. You can have heaters or fans. They have drinks, versus just sitting there for the ceremony, which can either be very hot or very cold. So that's the most popular combination that we see right now.
So what are some questions that brides need to be asking when they're first reaching out to venues?
Yeah, I think our first set of ladies really hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of websites these days are so informative. So the first thing that people are looking for is what comes included, what is the price, and what's the availability. Of course, a popular question we're getting right now, which makes a lot of sense, is, if the virus still is going on at the time of my wedding, what is your rescheduling policy? And overall, I've been so proud of the industry with how well we've worked together to help couples find a new date and make it seamless. And I think knowing what is important to the couple, so whether that be having an element outside, whether that be something that's part of the ceremony that you're asking permission if it's okay to do at the venue, knowing those things and making sure that it will work well within the restrictions and the space that you're offered at the venue is a huge first step. You have a shout out from Kimberly Bryant. Oh, yay! Hi, Kimberly.
Watching us. Okay, thanks, Anissa. I'm going to move over to Kevin. Hey, Kevin.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you guys made it on. We're just you probably see all the people that are on here, but we are streaming live on Facebook. I think we were just getting going on that when you popped in. So just kind of let everybody watching know what we're doing here. Today's our Wedding Wednesday venue spotlight. We're going to be spotlighting different categories throughout the wedding planning process every Wednesday because we have nothing else to do but video chat with all of our friends that we can't see anymore. So we want to make sure that while you're home and you're planning your wedding and you're doing your research, you have a chance to meet some of these amazing, amazing wedding vendors that we have the pleasure of working with every day. And even though we couldn't bring them to you at our March show. We're reaching out to them and bringing them to you via Zoom, because that seems to be what everybody is doing these days. So Kevin, I know that y'all have two venues, 1705 and Cross in Main in Wake Forest. So why don't you tell us a little bit about those venues, and then what we really want to do here is try to educate the brides and the people that are part of the wedding planning process, things they need to know to ask when they're researching and looking for venues. So a little bit about you and what you all have to offer, and then some ideas of things that brides should be asking.
Sure. This is Taylor, by the way.
Hi, Taylor.
We are with Rocky Top Catering is our parent company. We're a full service off-premise caterer, but we also feature within our umbrella, we feature two venues. As Laura mentioned, 1705 East is our venue in North Raleigh, just up here off Millbrook Road. Not too far outside of downtown Raleigh, can accommodate up to 200 to 250 guests seated comfortably, chairs and tables provided. And then Rocky Top is your caterer for that venue. Taylor can tell you a little bit about Cross in Main out in Youngsville, North Carolina.
Yeah, we are a fully indoor venue, and we can seat up to about 200 guests for your ceremony and reception. So we can accommodate both those on premise, have a bridal and groom's room on site as well. We love having brides out there. You know, everybody has a different vision, but of course, Rocky Top is our exclusive caterer. But we do have a preferred vendors list as well, but it is open, you know, to our wonderful vendors throughout the Raleigh area.
And in both of those venues are two very different venues than a lot of the ladies that we know that are on this call as well, that we work with quite often. But your Cross in Main is going to be more of like your industrial warehouse, historic warehouse space in the quiet little town there of Youngsville. And 1705 is a little bit more of a old-fashioned looking kind of plantation style home on the outside with a little bit more of a modern twist on the inside. But we're happy to answer any questions that you all have about it.
Yeah, so tell me some of the questions that you get when brides are contacting you about your venues.
The first question is always price. How much is it? I think we ask that brides kind of share with us kind of their idea and their budget when they start, because sometimes we can always accommodate it different months of the year, different days of the week. But, you know, asking all those questions, like all the other ladies said, just kind of what's all included with it, so that when they're going through the venue search, they're able to compare apples to apples. Mm-hmm. We sort of have a unique experience of working with a lot of the other venues a lot. So when we're working with our own venue, we can kind of figure out how to compare those apples to apples for them.
Right. From when you're working from the catering side with the other venues. Yeah. So, I thought I muted you for a second. So, Camelia, do you have any questions you want to throw out there that brides need to be asking or thinking about as they research their wedding venues?
Yeah, I think a big question that a lot of brides want to know, that we all know from working in the wedding industry, but what would you say are your busiest months? We obviously know October is a huge month for weddings. So typically it's spring and fall, but what are your busiest months and your slower months? And for brides, if they want to get married in those peak seasons, how far in advance do they need to book their wedding venue to secure, especially a Saturday in October is like a rare gem, I know. So what advice would you have for your peak months? What are they, and how far out do brides or couples need to book if they want to take advantage and get married in those months?
I think that, like you said, October is going to be that main time frame that you probably want to get more than a year out those October dates, just to make sure that you get the dates that you want. September, beginning of November, follow up close second to those to your October dates, and of course into the spring, April and May are those dates that you should probably be looking at your venue probably a little over a year out if you want a specific date. You get into these like 10, 10, 20 kind of dates, and those go really fast, really a lot farther out than a year. But we still we still wind up at about the year mark, we wind up having at least some Saturdays available in those months if you don't have the capability to get that far out. Non-peak months, a little bit less than a year, you can still have a lot of availability. Probably 10 months out, you can still get availability. But if you want your choice and you want to be able to get a specific date, I would definitely start thinking on planning at least a year.
Okay, good to know. Anyone else? Another question that I have, and I'm starting to see this more often, is a trend of weekday weddings. I know there's been a shift to Friday, Saturdays, but are you guys seeing more of a trend in weekday weddings? And if so, what do those look like compared to a traditional wedding that you would see on a Saturday?
So I can answer that. I want to make sure that I'm muted. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. So I would say we are seeing some Friday weddings. And I think for us, because we are a destination for a lot of folks at the beach, they want to kind of make the most of their time here. So they either want to do like a long weekend for folks where they have maybe the wedding party come in like Thursday to Sunday or Monday. And then we also have a lot of folks here that also will rent something for like a week. And so they'll want that to fall within that. And so a lot of times rentals are Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing like a Thursday or Friday option is preferable to them so that they're not like either, rushing out the door the next morning or, having to, do it on the front end of the trip. They would, so it just depends on the group, but we are doing some here and there this fall. We have a few, and similar to what they were saying, the fall is very busy for us as well. And so if folks can't get that Saturday day, they'll often look to a Friday or like a Sunday option, just to be able to kind of stay within the month that they were interested in and give themselves a little more flexibility. And I think especially for weddings where maybe less than 100 people and they have a little more flexibility, it's not a 250, 300 person wedding where they feel like they have to do it on a Saturday. That tends to be our experience, at least.
So you said you book Saturday to Saturday. So do you have accommodations for a wedding party to stay on your premise?
Oh, I meant like rental properties around us are typically.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
In peak season, we do have a suite that's available for the bride and groom to utilize for overnight accommodations, either the night before, the night after of the wedding. And then there are condominiums that are on like basically within the same property close by to us. They're privately owned that people can rent. So, but a lot of the time, especially in peak season, they will rent week to week. What's funny is summer is not quite as busy for weddings at the beach. Summer is insanely busy for everything else for us. So, but it's so hot, I think, like everywhere else in North Carolina. And it's also just very busy in general. So it's harder for them to find hotel blocks and places for their guests to stay. If they're doing something, in July at the beach, that's going to be really challenging. So you're going to want to plan something like that, probably a year to 18 months out to really guarantee that you have everything that you need. We have more flexibility, which actually has worked out with all of the rescheduling, that we've been able to push some of those May weddings and April events to, later this summer, which is a blessing, I guess. I hate it for the brides and grooms, but yeah. So summertime here is not quite as busy for weddings. We have a lot of other things happening though.
Awesome. Does anyone else want to speak to the weekday weddings? Because if not,
resource for sure. I think as Kevin was talking about, when we have couples come in the door and wanting to be able to work with every budget, definitely if couples have that flexibility that they're able to do it on a weekday, then sometimes venues are thousands of dollars cheaper on a Wednesday, than they are on a Saturday. And many vendors also are willing to be flexible with you because the likelihood of them booking that date for a wedding is so much lower than a Saturday, that they're able to do a bit more negotiating. So we've had couples, with a very limited budget or they just really don't want to spend more money, even if they have it, choose to do a weekday. I think the biggest thing is if the guest lives locally and if they're able to come without then having to take like that whole week off of work, versus I think the reason so many couples stick with the weekend is because people are flying from across the country. But those who both families might live here, it's a great option for.
That's fantastic. And another question that I have, obviously we want couples to continue planning their weddings for, 2021 and 2022, but it's difficult to do that right now with the stay-at-home order. So has anyone been able to offer virtual tours of their venues, or how are you handling consultations currently with couples?
Yeah, we've done a lot of virtual tours. We actually have, I think, like 5 scheduled for this Friday. So
Wow, fantastic.
there were a lot of tours that we already had on the books that were supposed to, physically come. And so our area, obviously the entire state is under a stay-at-home ordinance, but our specific county is even restricting outside visitors just so to not encourage like tourists to come to the area. So, which is heartbreaking for all of us, of course, but we wanted to be able to continue the planning process with these brides and not delay it for them. So we've done a lot of virtual, FaceTime or Zoom calls with them to help them see the space and send them as many photos. Of course, it's not the same as being able to see it in person, but we've had several folks that they felt comfortable with that process and moved forward based upon that. So that was great.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Anyone else? Has anyone else been able to offer a virtual tour or hold any consultations recently, or how are you moving forward helping couples currently?
Yeah, everything for us is virtual at this point as well. Either on the catering side of things, phone consultations, or for our venues, we're setting up those virtual currently. And I guess this is a question to some of the other ladies who are doing virtual. Have you preset your virtual tour, or like pre-recorded it, or are you doing the same tour over
and over and over and over again?
So we've done it customized per guest. So we have not pre-recorded it. We do have some snippets that we could do, but I think, as everyone knows, there's so many specific questions when you meet with someone that eventually, even if we sent them something pre-recorded, we would probably at this point have to have some sort of tour that's specific to their needs, because there might be parts of the space they're not interested in or something that they want to see more of versus somebody else. So yeah, it can be redundant, but I guess it's kind of necessary at this point. And so we're just, I don't know, obviously all of us are kind of learning as we go, so it might not be the most efficient means, but right now we have a little more time on our hands to do that.
Liza, are the, I know you said it's kind of custom because every bride has different questions, and with your property, it seems like you have a lot of different options and things that they might be interested in with accommodations and so forth. Do any of you have a just a general virtual tour that you've pre-recorded that maybe you have up on your website so that brides could go there and see that and then maybe contact you for more specific questions?
Laura, we do. Fortunately, we had just redone our website within the last few months. So we have 2 things on a virtual tour. We have an actual 360 virtual tour of the inside of the house as well as the grounds. So they're kind of able to navigate through that. We also have an interactive tour. So it's basically a drone shot of our property which shows the house and the surrounding grounds as well as the farm. And then you can click on different places on the property and it will show you a gallery of ceremonies or receptions set up at those specific places. So that's really been valuable during this time. And, what we're doing is encouraging people to look at that first, and then either a phone call or a FaceTime or whatever to talk about more specific questions that they have. But at least that gets them started on their own time.
When did you guys redo your website?
We just finished it a couple months ago.
Yeah. Wow, that was very good timing.
Good timing, yeah.
Yeah, we invest so much in our websites and all of these virtual tours and things. And I guess, you know, now's the time where everybody's going to take advantage of that and utilize that. Of course, we want them to do that anyway, all the time, but it's just so much easier to pick up the phone or shoot an email and say, hey, can I come by? And now without that choice, those virtual tours and interactive maps are going to be really great tools for all of us to use.
The other thing that's important now is, you know, we have, of course, a lot of booked couples and planners and caterers and people like that that are needing to work on planning events that are already scheduled, you know, for later this year and early next year. So and oftentimes they come out for site visits as they're doing that. So this also helps them, not just the brand new couples that are, you know, they've just gotten engaged and started their research.
That's fantastic. So it's almost an educational tool, a piece for the other vendors that will be working there. That's wonderful.
And Penny, one of our planners, commented on our live. She said, thank you to all the venues who have stepped up for our brides. They have been great. So kudos to everyone for rescheduling and working and overtime. You know, we appreciate all of you. And that's kind of the point of this live is to help you guys even further. So
I do have a couple of questions. One, do any of y'all require your bride to have a wedding planner? And I don't mean a venue coordinator, someone that kind of helps things run the venue. I mean a true wedding planner and or any type of insurance, and not because of this whole COVID virus situation, but I mean, even prior, any venues, any of y'all require either of those?
We do require that. We require not necessarily a wedding planner. That's not something that we require. We do require they have a coordinator of some sort for the day of, but it doesn't have to be a certified wedding planner. And that has worked okay for us thus far. I think it depends on the venue and everything, but we do require an event policy for them, a one-time event policy. And that's usually, you know, something that they can get through their current insurance provider, and just kind of protects them and protects us. And it's usually not extremely expensive either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
We currently don't require that they have one. We highly encourage it. And, you know, after all this stuff, we're definitely going to start highly encouraging insurance for sure. Just because some of the other venues that we work out that we know that do have had great results with their clients who have purchased it. So I guess before we didn't push the necessity for it, but this is all bringing that to light now. So that'll be part of our new push and our new contracts moving forward for that stuff.
Yeah, these are always trying to look for the positive and the negative. These are always times that really make you kind of put your checks and balances in place and see where you have areas. It definitely shows your vulnerabilities and your weak spots. And it's just, sometimes it's good to have that exposed so that you can make plans to make those shifts and corrections better for everybody in the future. So Anissa, I see you shaking your head.
Yes, we do have both required. So I think you already made that distinction of the coordinator versus the venue host or the venue coordinator. So I'm sure all of our venues include that, and the ones I've been fortunate to work with before I know do, because that person is going to be helping, you know, make sure people park in the right spot, make sure that the toilet paper is stocked, you know, the lights are on and the temperature is great. But they haven't met with the couple multiple times leading up to the day to set up the decor, or know the timeline, or know which family members who and what family dynamics to be sensitive to. So those are all the things that come from that coordinator. And same for us, it doesn't have to be a planner in the sense that they've planned the whole wedding. But I think sometimes we use day of coordinator, and that can be pretty confusing because no one could just come the morning of the wedding and then know all those things we talked about, or even know who the couple is. So really it's in the months leading up to the wedding that role kicks in, but we require that. And then for the event insurance, like, I'm so sorry, I don't know your name, but from the Merrill State beautifully said is that they can't get that through their homeowner's insurance. Oftentimes it's under $200, and that protects them from any damage that happens that day. that is separate from wedding insurance, which sometimes can be a little bit pricier, but in these cases definitely show their value if you are able to get your money back if you have to cancel and or change the date and it doesn't transition as smoothly. That has always been a recommendation for us, but not required like the day of event insurance has been. So 2 different kinds of insurance to consider.
Camelia and I have talked about that before on our lives, never for a virus pandemic, but we've talked about it with hurricane season and how that can impact us so greatly, especially in that fall time period here, which is one of the most popular times in North Carolina to get married. So we've definitely talked about insurance again, and I'm sure insurance is going to be on the forefront of everyone's mind moving forward after everything that we're all going through right now.
Definitely. Hurricane Matthew hit a year before my wedding, which was scheduled for the following October, and learning from other venues that had been shut down and things that happened, and looking into wedding insurance and realizing it really covers a lot if there's damage to equipment from a vendor, or if a family member is ill or passes away and you need to reschedule due to those purposes. So wedding insurance is great, and it really does not, it's just a drop in the bucket compared to your overall day, just to have that peace of mind at the end of the day that everything will be okay, because something will go wrong for your wedding, whether it's big or small. Something will go wrong. I thought the DJ played the wrong song for my first dance. It's just a different version, but little things do happen here or there. And that also actually brings up another question that I want to ask everyone, kind of also going along the lines of insurance, but alcohol. So everyone handles that differently. Some people hire bartenders through the caterer. Some people supply their own alcohol. Some venues allow you to get an ABC permit. I've heard of some venues not allowing any hard liquor, just beer and wine. So I'd love to hear how each of the venues handle alcohol at the weddings. Whoever wants to go first.
By the way, alcohol, I just heard on the news this morning, alcohol sales are up by like 51% across the US right now.
I don't doubt it at all.
And that was the first April Fool's joke that we got today, was somebody sent a fake clip of the governor announcing that they were banning alcohol sales today. But our venues, of course, we hold the license and permits for those, so we require that all the alcohol is purchased through ours, like a lot of the venues that we cater at do. And all
so
that,
couples do not have the option to bring their own alcohol at your venue.
not at our venues, but from the catering perspective, we always take the lead from the venue. Some of the venues do their alcohol in-house. Some of them require you to purchase it through a caterer, and then some of them allow you to kind of get your day of permit to be able to bring in your own, as long as you're using our catering bartenders for that service.
Gotcha. Awesome. Great to know. Who else?
For us, mostly we work with wonderful professional caterers like Rocky Top, and many of them have the option of including in the couple's invoice or in their contract bringing the alcohol and the bartenders. So most of our couples do that because it's the easiest option. We do not hold the license ourselves. So if, say, the fiance works at a brewery or brews their own beer and they have a specific one they want, they are allowed to bring that in, as long as it's a licensed and insured bartender, the one serving it. And you can have liquor. They either through the catering or the bartending company, or the couple themselves has to get that North Carolina liquor license, which is just about $100 and filling out 2 pages of paperwork to be able to have hard liquor, but the beer and wine, you do not have to get an additional alcohol license.
Awesome. Thanks for that info. Does anyone else want to speak to their alcohol in their venues, how they work that?
So we are similar, that we offer the catering services. We also do offsite catering as well. So we kind of take the lead, like they were saying, when we go to other venues. At Merrill Estate, we do offer beer, wine, and liquor packages, and they're kind of tiered depending on what people need. So some people just want like a basic beer and wine package with just a few options. Some folks want specialty cocktails. Some folks want a full open bar. And obviously within our contracts, we do have stipulations about, what we're going to serve and what the ramifications are if someone is overly intoxicated. And so I would, encourage brides to, consider all the options that make sense for them and their guests. And that is somewhere that we're able to be flexible for events. So some brides, they might have a budget but they can't maybe do the full open bar. So that's where a specialty cocktail is a good option for them, or maybe just a specialty cocktail just for cocktail hour, just to help, do kind of something different, but it's a, smaller time frame. So a little, less up on the price point. And that's worked out well for some of our brides. And when we do offsite caterings, it really depends on the venue, but we are able to provide our insurance policy and certificate of insurance to those venues. And that way the liability is on us because we're the ones that hold the ABC permit.
Awesome. Great to know. Thank you. And Rand, Brian, do you guys want to speak on that question?
Sure. Since we allow people to bring in their choice of caterers or bartenders and things, there are some people who choose caterers that do not tend bar, so then we recommend bartending services or hospitality services that can do some of those kinds of things. But then it's always simple when you have, catering companies like Rocky Top and other partners we work with a lot that can do both of those things. So we'll give them a variety of recommendations that can cover some of those. And then couples can buy in bulk and have a bartender serve it as long as, it's licensed and insured. So there's a variety of options and ways to get that done. And we talked with the couple about what works best for them and their budget and those kinds of things.
Fantastic. I think I'm done with my questions, Laura. I'm going to kick it back to you now.
I'm just going to ask a couple more. We've been on for, I don't know, about maybe 40, 45 minutes or so. So we've been doing great. We've had some great people watching us and following along. So I'm just kind of I got a laptop over here. I got a phone over here. I've got like all the technology trying to keep up with everything. So this is probably something that's really on people's minds right now is payment options and holding dates. So it may be something you have done in the past. You're not doing it anymore. I don't know with everything going on, but do you hold dates? If so, how long do you hold them? Or do you not? Do you require a deposit? And are you going to be offering, if you don't already, any type of payment plans or structuring of that so people can spread their payments out? I'm assuming now with a lot of people being out of work, things are going to be challenging for all of us. So what are you currently doing? How do you see that continuing in the future or changing in any way?
Currently right now, we'll hold a date for you until somebody else is interested in that date. So you do have time. I do urge anybody who's still looking out, particularly for the next 6 to 8 months, that the process is probably moving a lot quicker than it has been, because a lot of these brides from right now are all looking for all those alternative dates to reschedule. So that process is moving. I mean, sometimes, it's a day or two before somebody else is already looking at that last available Saturday that a venue might have to reschedule, or some of the popular Fridays or Sundays. So I think that process is moving along. We haven't changed a lot about our payment structure. We don't require as much of a deposit, particularly when you're booking a year out, as some of the other vendors do. So, and then I think that they can kind of make payments leading up to the event as how it works out best for them anyway. But we haven't made a lot of changes in terms of the payment structure due to this currently. Anyone else?
Well, we did get a question from one of our viewers. They wanted to know, Penny asked, do you supply linens and dishes? And I guess along with that, tables, chairs, what rentals come with the venue, if any at all?
So at Merrill Estate, we are pretty comprehensive in what we provide. Really, the only things that we don't have are your photographer and your DJ or band, and then your florals, and then of course your wedding planner. So those are things that you would definitely have to get, like a videographer, photographer, that type of thing. If you want specialty items, we have great partners that we can recommend, rental companies from all around that have worked with us that do all sorts of, beautiful things. But within our property, we have standard like white linens, we have standard white resin chairs, we have the large 60-inch rounds, and we have, the tables for all the catering services, cake table, gift table, all that kind of stuff. So we try to provide as much as they need. And then if they want special colors or special table runners or chair sashes, whatever that might look like, they can outsource that. And again, we can help facilitate that if they need us to, or their planner can. And, we have some decor items, but because that's usually such a personal decision, I usually encourage people to kind of look for that on their own. And unless it's something really simple that we can provide in-house.
Awesome.
And plates and glassware and everything like that are included with us.
Great. Who else wants to tell us what's included with their venue?
I'll go. So for Forest Hall, we have 15 8-foot farm tables that come included. So linens are not needed there. If somebody doesn't like the look of farm table, then you're welcome to put a linen on it, of course. And then 150 matching wooden folding chairs with a white pad. So those are all taken care of. We do recommend renting dishes from one of the local companies. We have so many great options, and that's just another way that our couples really show, their different styles and design and bring that in. And then for the Graham Mill, we will have 10 8-foot folding tables, the long ones that sit 10 people around, as well as 10 72-inch round tables. So it gives a huge trend right now is instead of every single table looking the same, a lot of mixing and matching and bringing in different types. So we'll have that option, but of course, if it's only 100 people, then they could either do all the rounds or all the longs. We'll also have 180 X-back chairs there as well. So so for both, if you wanted linens, linens and the china and things would need to be rented for us.
Awesome. Thank you.
For our venues, Cross and Main, they're actually a little bit different. Cross and Main has all your tables and chairs that you need, 60-inch tables, Chiavari chairs, but linens, flatware, glassware, china, all that stuff is rented through one of our venue rental partners. 1705 is a little different. That was a restaurant that was converted into a catering facility. So we do actually have the dishes on site there. Flatware, glassware, and china are included with that space, but you do have to rent the linens additionally for that space.
It's wonderful.
At the Rand Bryan House, we have some options. We have the basic package includes tables and chairs because, of course, everybody needs those at a minimum. But then we do have other packages that we work through a rental company partner with, and that gives them choices of chairs, colors, and then adding the linens and the dishes, which they do after booking, and they pay that directly, to the rental company. But we coordinate with them as far as the setup and the breakdown. So once they do it through us and our partner, they can pretty much turn loose of it, and we'll take care of it.
Awesome. Thank you all for your input on that.
I know this has been really informative and fun. So we're getting close to, I think we've been live for maybe about 48 minutes or so. I had set the meeting for an hour. So if anybody has anything else they want to contribute, any top questions that brides need to be thinking about or asking as they're researching and looking for their venues, or anything else you want to add about your property, let's hear it.
Give us your 30-second spiel.
Well, I just want to thank you for hosting this today and including us. And if there are any brides that are still needing space, Merrill Estate and Gardens in Indian Beach, we do have some availability for this summer. And so if you're looking for something for the summertime, we would love to talk to you. And we have some non-Saturday dates available for the fall. So if folks are looking for weekdays or something like that. And then of course, we also offer catering services. Our parent company is 81 Hospitality, which is Dank Burrito, which offers food truck and catering services, as well as 3 brick and mortars, and Circa 81 restaurant as well in Morehead City. And we offer catering services around Eastern North Carolina.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
I think it's pretty obvious that, flexibility is going to be the key for all of us, for the brides and all of us as vendors. I mean, really, that's always the case, particularly when it comes to availability. When I started doing this, I couldn't understand how so many people called and asked for a specific date, and they weren't flexible, and they hadn't even gotten their venue yet. But what I realized is you get engaged, and the first thing that happens is somebody says, okay, so when's it going to be? Everybody's asking, when is it going to be? And maybe you feel the need to pick that. But really, generally, and certainly during these times, the more flexible you can be with when, and like we've talked about earlier, more options for different days of the week. We've done weddings every day of the week, and there's nothing wrong with a Monday or a Thursday or whatever. And if it works for your guests, and I think we're probably going to see smaller weddings, particularly for the rest of this year, as people try to reschedule things anyway. So we're all about flexibility. We'll work with them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one final tip I would share is it can be so confusing. I think even with this last round of questions of like what comes included, of why the prices of venues are all so different. And I think it's just because so many different things are included. So with one, you're getting the linens and the tables and the chairs and your food and alcohol. And with another, you might not even have the tables and chairs. So really making a comprehensive spreadsheet for yourself of what are the things that are a must for you, and then filling in the prices of each venue. And then if it doesn't include something, if an outdoor ceremony, or if, having the linens in-house is important, making sure you're factoring in, okay, well, if I'm not getting at this venue, what's the price I'm going to incur to either rent it or add that on myself, so that you're really doing a fair look across the board. Because so many times couples might think, oh, wow, that place is so expensive, but it's just as expensive as the less expensive one. It just doesn't include as much that you end up spending the money on in the end. And it would have been easier for them to get it all in one place. So I think just making sure that you're doing a fair comparison across the board of whatever those important things are to you.
I think that's fantastic. And I can speak to how a wedding planner can really help you with that. My wedding planner helped me really hone in on what my vision was for my wedding. And once we realized, okay, I wanted an outdoor wedding in a garden, there's like 3 places I could go for that option. And we talked about, do we go to a venue or a park? And if we went to a park, then it was, how are we going to get all the rentals there? And what about restrooms? And, there were so many things that went into it. And helped me realize, okay, if I go to a venue, I have all of that there. And so that's really what I need to do. So that's a very good point, Anissa. And, having that wedding planner to give you that valuable input will help you make that decision with what will truly work best for your vision and your budget. So very good point. And then last but not least, we have Rocky Top Cross in Maine. You guys want to give us one last?
We just wanted to thank you guys for coming and or for having us here today. But mainly, I want to go back, just a thank you especially from the catering side of our business, to the venues and some of the coordinators that have made all this last couple of weeks so much easier for the rest of us, kind of helped us guide on our venue side of our business to how to handle all this different stuff, and leading back to the importance of having that wedding coordinator and that good correspondence and that good relationship with the venues and the wedding planners has really made this easy for a lot of brides. So we just wanted to thank Anissa, all you guys out there who have been on the forefront helping us out with all this stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I'm sure as a bride who doesn't have a wedding planner, trying to navigate through the process of contacting all of her vendors and coordinating who's available on what dates to move things forward has got to be extremely challenging, and not something I would wish on anyone to have to do that. So God bless all the planners that are kind of taking that responsibility on and doing that. And I'm sure if it's not the planner, it's probably falling very close next to the venue or the caterer, because they're such a big component. So interesting times that we're all in, but I'm just so happy that I and my team at Forever Bridal, Camellia, who's been on with me today, that we could just turn something like this around really quickly and bring you all together and kind of have these spotlights where we can talk about, you know, some of the challenges, but really moving forward and how we're continuing to do business and service our customers by planning weddings. So thank you for your time today talking about wedding venues. We, I think next week, do we have a top category for next week yet? Or are we still kind of navigating through that, Camellia?
I don't know if we decided exactly what it was I think we were going to do planners next.
Planners or maybe photographers, I think we were.
Planners or photographers.
Yeah, we're going to try to hit some of the top categories through the month of April. So for all you couples out there that are still planning or dealing with any rescheduling and postponing and are just looking for some tips and advice for your wedding planning process in general, please join us on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock, where it worked out today with, you know, the grace of God. We'll be able to live stream from Zoom to Facebook. Moving forward, we had some glitches last week on our first attempt at a virtual wedding show, but the goal here is to bring our community together, support all of our local wedding businesses, and for Forever Bridal to kind of bring both vendors and brides together. So if you have more questions or you have comments, please put them in the thread on the Facebook Live. It will stay up there, obviously, for you to watch whenever you can. And thanks again for joining us. Thanks to Martha and Audrey with the Ram Bryan House, with Liza from Merrill Estate and Gardens, Anissa with the Graham Mill and Forest Hall, and Kevin and Taylor, who are representing Rocky Top, as well as 1705 and Cross and Main. It's been great. Thank you guys. Good luck to you all. We'll stay in touch, and it was wonderful to see you all today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Y'all take care.
Hi, everyone.